You know, we found ourselves locked down in quarantine last year. There were more than a few jokes about the baby boom that would likely be the result of a lot of people trapped in close quarters without much to do. That didn't happen. 9 months after the pandemic, not only did we not see a birth surge, we have seen a drop in births, and that continues a trend we have seen across the world. One that has deep and profound consequences that demographers and population scientists are watching. I'm joined this morning by one of them, Dr. Pamela Smock, a sociologist at the University of Michigan's Population Studies Center. Pamela, I don't know that you were all that surprised to see that we didn't have a baby boom, because I think studies show us that when people are under stress, whether it's mental stress or economic stress, they don't reproduce, right?
Absolutely. That's right. We've seen this before. We saw a little bit of it in the 2008 recession. But in 2008, we didn't also have this global pandemic. So we had both things. We have an economic crisis and a health crisis. And economics have always affected family behaviors, including getting married, staying married, and also having kids.
We have societal changes that have been happening all over the world as well. People talk about how lonely they are. Loneliness has become an epidemic. People are waiting longer to find a partner, which shortens, I guess, your reproductive window. But this is all part of a very, a massively profound change that's happening across the world, isn't it?
It is, and that's why there's so much attention to this issue of the baby bust in my world and other kinds of social and behavioral sciences and public health, because it has such profound implications for things that we might not normally think about. If this continues, if this is deep and long, then we're going to have a much smaller cohort of kids growing up into adulthood who are going to support us in terms of Social Security. So this has profound implications for Social Security, for economic growth and issues like that.
In fact, if a population doesn't replace itself with the same number of people, or in general the same number, the stress that puts on that smaller generation to take care of a massive group of older aging people becomes a huge, complicated problem.
Absolutely. The thing that I also want to stress is that fertility rates have been declining in the U.S. and other countries, European countries and other places, for many, many years now. So this baby bust is on top of this decline we've already been seeing. So the consequences could be quite tremendous.
Now, I know I can tell some people would be saying, oh, these are just the same alarmists who back in the 70s told us that we were on the other side of the problem. We were about to have this massive overpopulation of the world, and we don't have the resources for that. Does this feel different, or is this an ebb and flow of the way the world works?
This feels, in terms of my lifetime, this feels different. This feels bigger. This feels like it's caused a seismic change in the culture and the economy and all these, in families, in the educational system. But I would also say that demographers didn't predict the baby boom, right, of 1947 to 1963. Right. Coming out of the Great Depression, fertility was low. Nobody predicted the baby boom. We didn't know we'd go to war and then have a booming economy. So demographers are not always able to see into the future. But all the data that I've looked at and all the reports I've read, the recent data is very much unified that the only question, we are in a bust. The only question is how long and how deep is it going to be? The longer and deeper, the more profound the consequences for society will be.
Well, and of the two problems that you point out, so we have dropping fertility rates, which seems like a medical and scientific problem that we have to solve, versus the societal one and economic one. Are any of them solvable? How do we push forward?
That's a very complicated question. That's a very good question. One way to push forward is to think about ways that perhaps policies can make it easier to have children and to have more children. I think that gets at one aspect of your question. As far as the economy goes, that's not my area of expertise, so I can't answer that question. Like everything else, though, we've always found a way. we talk about below replacement fertility, which we've had for a while, and this is making it even worse. But it would take a long, long time for any society to just disappear. And plus, we are helped because of immigration. Immigration helps us keep our level at replacement level. So that's a very important thing that not everybody knows. Immigration is vital to maintaining our population.
Well, in fact, you point out something that's really difficult. Any change that we make, it takes a generation for us to see the real change, right?
Right. And talking to journalists, I always find I have to explain to them how long it takes to get data to answer their question about something that happened yesterday.
Right.
I say, well, it's going to cost $5 million because we have to do the right survey. But I'm so impressed by my colleagues who are doing this work on the baby bus now, because they're really, really moving fast to get answers.
It's fascinating stuff, Pamela. I could talk to you about it for all day. I so appreciate the time. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, you're so welcome.
You
Pleasure.
bet. We come back, ready to get rid of daylight savings time? This is Flashpoint on Local 4.